She listened. All right, welcome back to Major Team Opportunity. I'm your host, John Major, and I have my first co-host with me today. She's been known as the elephant in the room. She's shy. She's not going to show her face. She said the reason is because she doesn't have a virtual barber yet. ChatGPT. Welcome, ChatGPT. So we have a lot to uncover. Just want to make sure I had ChatGPT, had her pulled up. So today we're looking at the Omaha real estate market where closed sales did decline from 16.7% in June to July. There's a decrease of that amount. And homes, some are going really quick, others are sitting 60 plus days. We'll also break down a truly unique $1.25 million lake property outside of Omaha within an hour. This was initially purchased as like a retreat center. It's got 12 bedrooms, 3 bath, and there's 2 parcels, an ADU, which we're going to ask ChatGPT about here in a little bit, and see how a jumbo loan at 20% down on a $1.25 million home is $1 million and how a temporary 1.0 buy down could affect your payment as well. So now we'll transition to ChatGPT. I do want to make a plug for my son, Big Mike. He turned 7 years old today. So Big Mike, he's the man. So again, ChatGPT, before I reveal the property and dive into the numbers, what does a market with fewer sales, longer market times, and more price reductions potentially mean for both buyers and sellers? So ChatGPT, I'll read her, I'll provide some commentary since I am a mortgage professional, but this is what she said. For buyers, it can mean more time to make the thoughtful decision and greater room to negotiate, not only on price, but potentially on closing costs, repairs, contingencies, and interest rate buy down, or even discount points in the form of a seller concession, which I just added in there for ChatGPT. For sellers, it means that initial pricing and presentation matter more. A home that sits too long can lose momentum and create frustration. But 60 days on the market doesn't automatically mean the seller is desperate. It doesn't mean they're desperate. Sometimes they are, though. You'll see they'll drop it from Zillow and drop it back in. I do want to mention as I move any further, if you have any questions that you want me to ask ChatGPT, I'm happy to ask questions on your behalf. I have a handful of questions I'm going to ask. But again, I think this is just going to be a fun way to really dive a little bit deeper. Because the one thing I do want to mention is when markets are harder to interpret, better questions uncover opportunities. They do. They do. And if you're using ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or Grok, what you find is when you treat it as your daily assistant friend, you start asking it better questions. But if you're providing it shit, it's going to give you shit. Shit in, shit out. It's just the fact. So again, the more reps you get in and you start to just understand that you can dive as deep as you want and provide rebuttals and different perspective that they take into consideration and continue to build off of your thoughts. If you've yet to download ChatGPT or Claude, I highly recommend you do and just start getting those reps in. Where did we leave off? We covered the buyers and sellers. Again, there's 3 components: price, location, and condition. Not to mention the mortgage piece with rates staying in the mid 6s. Combination of inflation and the global issues with Iran. I need a sip of water here. Those all play a role in the market. And rates do tend to follow the 10-year treasury, which is sitting still below 5%. But again, all those things play a role. Do we have any questions yet? Let's see here. All right. Happy birthday, Mikey. Absolutely. Big 7. Time goes too quick. All right. So we'll start with my question then, because I am not a real estate professional. I am a mortgage professional. And so I'm still learning things too. So my question is, okay, I have the magic keyboard, so let's use that one. What does ADU stand for? And could one add value? All right, ChatGPT, what do you have for us? She's working. She's working some more. We're working with the LLM 5.6. Apparently there's different models. The light. Okay. She has responded thoughtfully. ADU stands for accessory dwelling unit, a separate secondary living space on the same property, such as a guest house or in-law suite. So we know it's sitting on two parcels. So again, whether that be for generational wealth, we are starting to see this more to where families are coming together and purchasing. I have an F3 brother that his in-laws, they ended up building on the back side of the property. So they had two separate properties within the same dwelling space. And it's unique. And again, when you get older, they want to be closer to the grandkids, can work out well. Okay, ChatGPT did add, it can add value by providing space for extended family, guests, or a home office, or potentially rental income where permitted. But the actual value depends on its condition, legal status, local zoning, and whether comparable properties show buyers are willing to pay more for it. Okay, so the property that I mentioned, I'm going to give it to you guys. It's at 2334 Deer. Oh my gosh, I should have that memorized. We were sitting at 2334 Deer Hollow in Morse Bluff. I've not personally been to Morse Bluff yet, but I did take a look at the 30,000-foot view, and there's several lakes right next to the Platte River. And again, this sits on almost 9 acres. So as you can see, a lot of space. You could even just tear this home down and build a beautiful lake property. Again, everyone's financial situation looks right. Not necessarily right or wrong, just there's no right or wrong answer in regards to what you can afford until you dive into the details more. Okay, no questions yet, so I will dive into my second question. Got to get used to using my magic keyboard here, which I do love, by the way. Okay, so second question, what are the nearest meaningful comparable sales? Because again, comparable sales play a large role on what you can truly get for a property if an appraiser is going to be involved, which an appraiser is not always involved if somebody is paying cash, which again, at this price point, you do see a lot of people that have leverage from businesses and just big lines of credit where they're not actually, it's so funny. I used to think people actually brought a suitcase of money to closing. They do not. It's typically a check that either has that money in it or a line of credit that has that money in it to where then they're lending it in a different fashion. ChatGPT is working on her response to what are the nearest meaningful comparable sales to this 1.25 luxury. Again, luxury means different things to different people. Luxury can be the actual home and what it provides with a gymnasium and a pool. Other times it's being in nature and having several acres to do whatever you want. All right, the two most meaningful nearby sales are both in Wolf Lakes Estates. Apparently, according to Tristan Nelson and Steve Wolf, they're the ones that are listing this property. Great guys. Again, a lot of this stuff too, as she works on her response here, I've always talked about this. PUTP, pick up the phone. And I still have call reluctance. But again, when you get on the phone with the listing agent and you are able to ask them the pointed questions such as, what is most important to your sellers besides top dollar? You'd be surprised the type of responses you get, whether that's coming from another real estate agent or a mortgage professional. Of course, when I'm calling, I'm giving more of them an understanding if there's any contingency on another property, if it's a paper, clean, conventional loan, or they have to go FHA given their current credit situation. And every single property, not only property, but product has different variable components. So again, that conversation can look a little bit different, but there is a lot of intertwining pieces between the real estate agent and the mortgage professional. I do know this to be true because my wife, shout out to Katie Bat Major at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Ambassador Real Estate, I see her working fearlessly daily. And there's just a lot of conversations that are being had with a number of different variables. And so the more I can support my number one partner, Katie, which I do believe it is a good thing she is my number one partner. Otherwise, yeah, our marriage is, again, we don't need to go there. We're waiting on ChatGPT, and she's still working on this response. So she's diving deeper than I anticipated. Let's see if we have any questions yet. Again, I still have some further questions that I'm going to ask. Again, don't be shy. And I'm going to put in the 2334, the address, so everyone has it if you want to look it up. At Deer Hollow. For some reason I cannot remember Deer Hollow. Who has been to Morse Bluff? Again, we spend quite a bit of time because of family in Louisville and South Bend, which is right off the Platte. I'm curious if anyone wants to put a guess out there how long it would take to get on an airboat to this location. All right, we have a question from Ethan. Katie Vat Major, thanks for the shout out. Absolutely, my Katie Q. John, can you do DSCR loans? Absolutely. Debt service coverage ratio. What's nice about the DSCR loans is, from a documentation standpoint, it is much less. We're not collecting tax returns, W-2s, pay stubs. It's all asset based. So again, rent schedule, it's just computed differently. Okay, I'm gonna send you that address. It's right here. All right. Tristan, they have a solid little bar with super cheap food. Great spot for Sunday dinner. Love that. Yeah, we had some clients recently that went from in the city to, I guess this was a little further back, but again, time goes so quickly. But now they're on an acreage, which would be a good question for ChatGPT is, if you have 1 acre or 1 million, are you considered on an acreage? Are you a millionaire? But yeah, so no, looking through these questions here. Yeah, so to finish that story, my point was they're super close to a great just local dive bar. I wonder what that little bar is called. Okay, ChatGPT has responded, so let's get back to ChatGPT. Thank you for your patience. The two most meaningful nearby sales are both in Wolf Lakes Estates. 2296 Crooked Creek Road sold in May 2026 for approximately $684,000. It's a newer 1,912 square foot lakefront home on 1.85 acres. So obviously almost 9 acres versus almost 2 acres is apples and oranges. We got 2288 Crooked Creek Road sold in May 2024 for $875,000. It has 2,510 square feet on 2.2 acres. Neither is a perfect match for Deer Hollow's 8.7 acres, ADU, second parcel, and 12-bedroom layout, so they provide context, but professional appraisal judgment remains essential. Okay. Bottom Road Bar and Grill. Love it. I have not been there, but I'd be curious to know more. Again, thank you for joining me. Just a reminder, if there's a question that you want me to ask my co-host, ChatGPT, or myself, please leave it in the comments section, and would love for us to fire some further great questions, because as I mentioned earlier, when we ask better questions, it uncovers more unity. Okay, 3. So this is, let's dive into the mortgage component here. So on a 1 million jumbo loan, which is 20% down on 1.25 million. Let it know it's a 30-year loan as well. Excuse me. How much does a temporary 1.0 buy down reduce the first 1 year period? Because what happens is that initial rate, so instead of it being at 7%, it's at 6% for 12 payments, and 1% lower on $1 million is going to be a good chunk of money. So let's see exactly what ChatGPT. Anytime I fact check ChatGPT's mathematical accuracy, she's right every time so far. All right, she responded faster this time. Assuming a 7% note rate temporarily reduced to 6%, the principal and interest payment drops approximately $6,653 to $5,996 per month during the first year. That's a reduction of about $658 per month, or approximately $7,890 over 12 months. In year 2, the payment returns to the full 7% amount. And then she mentions taxes, insurance, and HOA dues don't change. It did look like there were minor HOA fees associated with this property. Jumbo loan. Tristan Nelson. In the F3 community, he's called Patchy Adams, so I call him Patchy. So we'll go with Patchy moving forward. What price point puts someone into a jumbo loan scenario? It's a great question. So my answer would be, it of course depends on the purchase price, and it depends on how much they're considering to put down to get their payment to where it's comfortable on a monthly basis. And again, everyone's number looks different given their full financial picture. But let's just add that question in there for our co-host, chat into a jumbo loan scenario. All right, she's working away here. I've been just calling her ChatGPT. Like Claude, I call her Claudia. So if anyone has any suggestions on, I do like nicknames. I think I'm with you, Patchy. I think we need a nickname for our co-host, ChatGPT. All right, she's responded though in the meantime. In 2026, the standard 1-unit conforming loan limit in Nebraska is $832,750. $832,750. A loan amount above that is generally considered jumbo, not the purchase price itself. And that is according to FHFA, which they oversee Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. They're the watchdogs. With 20% down, a purchase price above approximately $1,040,938 would produce a jumbo loan. At this property's $1.25 million price, 20% down creates a $1 million jumbo loan. A buyer could avoid jumbo financing by increasing the down payment enough to keep the loan at or below $832,750. So that's getting granular. And again, that information is good to know. You ask ChatGPT, quality question, you get a quality answer. Any suggestions for chat nickname? We got to throw something out here. I would love some help. This morning we had, I believe, 2 FNGs, but one of them was my buddy. And he was, so when he comes into the middle of the circle, we're talking like 45 guys. It's, who are you? Where are you from? Tell us any embarrassing stories or tattoos you have. The idea is to give them a humble name. So I think we should consider giving her a humble name. But in the meantime, let's work to another question I had for ChatGPT here. This one I'm intrigued too. So my question is going to be, where can AI help with a property like this, and where is the human professional judgment still necessary? Because again, the human element is very much alive in the real estate and mortgage space. You guys having fun? Hopefully learning something. And again, if you know of anybody that may be looking for, actually, it's funny, as I'm saying this out loud right now, there's somebody that's coming to mind that is looking for a legacy type of play, compound. This may be a little too far out for them. Again, everyone's comfortable with different type of proximity. But when you're looking for land and you're looking for that privacy and outbuildings and nature, when you're under an hour and within Omaha and Lincoln, there is plenty of opportunity there. Okay, Scout. All right. Katie Q wins. We're going with Scout. She was If you're not first, you're last. And that's one I could go on and on about KDQ, but when we're talking GST, major action, she gets shit done. She keeps me on my toes, so thank you. Scout it is. Okay. Scout has responded. AI can quickly organize the listing details, identify nearby sales, calculate financing scenarios, and help buyers formulate better questions. Human judgment is still essential for determining whether those sales are truly comparable, evaluating the condition and legal status of the ADU. Do you remember what ADU stands for? Accessory dwelling unit, separate from the main home. Understanding the second parcel and lake rights, structuring the appropriate mortgage, and learning what the buyer and seller actually need. AI can accelerate the analysis, but the realtor, appraiser, lender, inspector, and ultimately the buyer must interpret it and make the decision. So again, multiple parties have to come together, and not only come together, but it needs to potentially be appraised if it's not a straight cash offer. Home inspections are very real before the actual appraisal, and that brings up other rounds of negotiation. Human element of people figuring out the pros and cons of how much of the seller credit they should be getting, or where that price is truly going to line up. So again, right there at the end, AI can accelerate the analysis, but the realtor, appraiser, lender, inspector, and ultimately the buyer must interpret it, and the seller, of course, need to interpret it and make the decision. Coming together. Bertha. Bertha would be another good one too, but you were too late, Patchy. Any other questions on this property, or we can even dive into other statistics? One thing I'd like to add from a very prominent realtor in town, I always enjoy getting her insight when I get her on the phone. And she had mentioned out of the 15 plus deals she was closing in August, there was this benchmark or divider at 450,000. Things under 450,000, just like they're going faster. Above 450, they're taking more time. Again, we're not looking at 10, 20, 30 offers per home anymore. If it's priced extremely aggressively and the house has been remodeled and it's just near certain things in or around Omaha, like it can go super quick and there can be 5, 10 offers. But we're just not seeing that at large nearly as much. So then 450 above, like when they are sitting 30, 60 days, again, do they consider waiting until the spring to sell, or do they need that money for their next move? Again, everyone's financial decision and urgency level is going to look different. As I mentioned earlier on the show, when you drop it from Zillow as a real estate professional and relist it, it's going to show that in the comments, but it's going to go back to the front of the line, which it's going to get eyeballs that it wasn't getting when it was sitting for so many days. Because again, when people see it's been sitting for a while, they're like, what's wrong with this home? What's wrong? And it just doesn't help. It really doesn't help. So again, speed wins. But in this type of market as a buyer, you have more time to be patient and maybe even put in a low ball offer that can create a gap to get the home price at a number, whether it be just mentally getting a better deal for it or structuring it in a way to where you can keep more money on the sideline or do a temporary 1.0 buy down or pay discount points to then get a payment that is comfortable in your budget. And so that's where those conversations really matter. Go to majorteammortgage.com. Either you can fill out an application or we can pop on the phone. All my information's right there. You can DM, text, email, pick up the phone, PUTP. But again, we want to help people like Patchy get more eyeballs on unique properties. And I thought this one was very unique and something that from a generational standpoint could be the win. But again, we're talking about a $1.25 million home. There's a smaller pool of these type of buyers. But if you think somebody could be a viable, just viable in regards to considering a property like this, share it with them. Any other questions? Doesn't look like it. All right. I hope you join me next week for Major Team Opportunity. Until then, make it a great day and great weekend. Bye for now.